All right, welcome back. It is the Vegas Take. Shapiro, a lot to get to for the remainder of the show. What is swatting? Well, we're going to talk about that coming up in hour number 3. Curt Schilling looks like he's going to be running for Congress, former Red Sox pitcher, Hall of Famer. And, Bryson DeChambeau is apologizing to his fellow PGA Tour golfers. We'll tell you why coming up in hour number 3. But as I just mentioned, we just played this Unite America video. We have all these celebrities, actors, producers, so on and so forth, that are anti-Trump. It is no secret that Hollywood is very, very liberal, and there are a few people that are on the right that work in Hollywood, and a lot of them are afraid to speak their mind in fear of losing their jobs. Well, the guy we have with us on the line right now, I guess we will call him the Hollywood conservative, Mr. X. Mr. X, thank you for coming on the show. How are you?
What's up, Mr. X?
I'm doing well, guys. Do you guys have one of those things to disguise my voice like a CIA informant where it sounds like all distorted, or no, are we good?
I don't. Unfortunately, I don't, but I do appreciate you coming on. So I want to give the listeners a little bit of background on you. Can you talk a little bit about your career? How long have you been a producer in Hollywood? How did you get your start?
Yeah, I'm a filmmaker. I've been in Hollywood about 15 years. I've made 4 feature films, and, they've all independent. But I've been out. I'm from the South, so, coming out, it was definitely a little bit of a eye-opener. And, yeah, the anonymity is definitely important. So, yeah.
What percentage of Trump supporters you think are out there in Hollywood right now that work in your industry?
It's more than you think. It's mostly the people who finance the movies. It's kind of the money and the business side of the industry, but they are completely in hiding. So you see them at a party and they just kind of give you a little nod, like you have this shared understanding.
Secret club.
They don't say much. Yeah.
Have you ever been afraid to speak your mind? I would imagine you have been, right? If you're on the set of a movie, or if you're talking to a very famous celebrity that is very anti-Trump, Have you had to stop yourself in your shoes in fear of losing your job? And can you give us an example of that?
Yeah, it's crazy. I have people who will literally just say on set, and I just overhear it, I would never work with a Trump supporter. And famous actresses, famous actors, they say, no, Trump supporters are basically racist Nazis, and I don't want to be associated with them. I'm like, okay, well, fair enough.
Can you give me, I don't want to put you on the spot here, but can you give me a name or a few names of even people that you could tell us that either you've had interaction with or maybe some of your friends have that are conservatives that have said those types of things?
That are conservatives? Well, I can tell you that the lead actor on my last film is a legendary guy. He's won some Oscars, and I will protect his anonymity. But he was as far right as you can possibly be, and I could tell that my entire set were just incredibly uncomfortable with him. It was and I just thought it was hilarious. He would make comments that, are very right wing, and I could just see my crew and my producers cringing, and I just said, well, it does exist. So.
If you're just joining us, we're calling him Mr. X or Hollywood conservative, a longtime producer in L.A., and there are not many people that are willing to speak. Not necessarily that they're not willing to, but they're afraid to in fear of maybe losing their jobs.
Okay, Mr. X, let's say that somehow, some way your name was outed. Would you legitimately get blacklisted from the industry?
Yeah, in some respect, yeah, the level that I'm at. Sure, if somebody that is, if J.J. Abrams comes out and says, I support Trump, people are still going to say, all right, well, fine. We're still going to make movies with J.J. Abrams.
Right.
But for somebody that's coming up still and, who's made a couple films but still has some way to climb, yeah, you will get blacklisted. People will not work with you.
What are some of the craziest things that some people on the left you've heard them say, whether that's on set? Now, you just named a couple things. Calling a Trump supporter a Nazi is absurd.
We're
okay,
not assuming
that's absurd.
Yeah.
Listen, I am
incredibly common, unfortunately, but it is absurd. But
yeah. Listen, I'm the last person to be a Donald Trump supporter, and I have a lot of reasons for why. And we had a conversation off the air about that. But with that being said, I would never call a Trump supporter a Nazi. I would never call a Trump supporter a racist unless they specifically did something for me to call them that. Now, I think there are some out there, but there are some racists and Nazis in society, no matter what their political affiliation is. But with that being said, what are some of the craziest things that you've heard people way on the left in Hollywood say to you personally?
Well, it's funny because I won't say this is super crazy, but it pertains to what you just said. I've been turned down for a number of jobs recently for writing gigs and directing gigs because I'm not black or a woman. And they'll tell me point blank, they'll say, we love you. We think you're talented. We need a female director for this. We love you. We think you're great, but we want to go ethnic for this.
That is insane.
That's racist. I don't know what
is.
to tell you guys, but that's fine if you want someone who's more talented than me or, whatever.
Hold on a second.
It's so funny that these social justice warriors, are calling us racist and then saying things point blank. It's
you're telling me I want to backtrack because what you just said is unbelievable to me. You're telling me as a Hollywood producer, you've tried to get gigs in producing movies, and in your interview, you're telling me that they looked you right in the face and it had nothing to do with your resume, but only to do with your skin color and your gender, saying that they wouldn't hire you because you're not a minority or a woman. Is that what you're saying?
Last week, I was interested in directing a film, and they sent me the script, and I really dug it. And I talked to the producer, and I said, what's the story? I'd love to do this. And they said, you're amazing. We love your work, but we think that this would be better received by people if we had a female director. And I said, okay, I mean, I can go get a sex change operation. I really want to do this movie.
You could actually do that.
They said that point blank, and I just kind of laughed. And it's so common. It's strange that if you're not in the industry, that you guys think it's so strange. I mean, it is constant that it's like, no, we want a female, we want black, or we want a Hispanic or whatever. And it's fine, I get it, but it's definitely, to me, reverse racism. It's like I kind of had this realization the other day that in this country, only white people can be racist. I realized this. That had never occurred to me until recently, where people can say these unfathomably insensitive things, and as long as it's in support of a non-white person, then it's fine.
I don't know what the laws are, okay? I don't. But just hypothetically, if you were interviewing for a job and they looked you in the face and said, look, you're qualified for this position, but we're not picking you because of your skin color or because, you're a man and not a woman, couldn't you sue them for that if you had that recorded?
Not in Hollywood, baby. That's showbiz, as they say. I mean, it is. That's how it goes out here.
That's just incredible to me. Okay, so explain to me this. Let's dive into some other. And by the way, I'm sorry that you have to go through that. That makes Democrats look bad. That makes our human race look bad. We all disagree. It's absurd. With that being said, explain to me your political thoughts on Donald Trump. Why do you support him? You sound like a smart guy. Why is it that, because my thoughts on Trump is it's 95% not to do with policy and politics and everything to do with, I think he's just a scumbag. I'll just be honest. And I could give plenty of reasons for that.
I agree with you. And listen, the reason I supported Trump when he was being elected was he didn't seem like a politician to me. He seemed like a nutcase, and he seemed like he had some wild ideas, but he didn't seem bought and paid for. He didn't seem as corrupt as the person he was running against, who has a higher body count than Game of Thrones, but we won't go there. But he just didn't seem like. I remember seeing a statistic at the time when he was running of who these PACs were supporting and big pharma and the media, and Hillary was obviously at the top by a considerable margin, and then he and Bernie Sanders were at the bottom, and I was like, at the very least, maybe these guys won't be quite as corrupt. And during his presidency, I won't say that that's necessarily been the case. So I wouldn't even necessarily call myself a Trump supporter. I just was very vehemently opposed to Hillary because I just thought she was the Antichrist. Sorry, apologies if that's
okay.
Not right to say.
You can say Antichrist. That's okay.
That's perfectly FCC friendly.
Okay.
A lot of people on this show call me the Antichrist, so that's
Twice
fine.
a week.
Well, she's worse than you. I bet you. You're a nice guy. But with Trump, it was just honestly, my biggest concern with him was I didn't think he would be very good for the environment, and I was right about that, and that was definitely one of my biggest concerns. But I don't think he's been a bad president. I think the media vilify him constantly because of the things that he says on Twitter. And my policy with regard to politics has always been I ignore the debates. I ignore all the nonsense. I ignore all the the scandals that are fabricated by the media. And I really do try to look at statistics because it's the only analytical thing you can really consider with a politician. And so from that perspective, I think he's been fine. And again, I've disagreed with certain decisions that he's made. But, when you look at the economy and the joblessness and what he's done in North Korea, I think he's done things that were fine. And, I contrast it with Barack Obama, who I did not support, because to me he was like a figurehead. Everybody loved him, and they're getting him tattooed on their body because he's this icon. Like, what did he do? What did he accomplish? Like,
I'm not an Obama defender. I understand what you're saying. I didn't think he was a great president. I thought he was an average president.
But he was a good guy.
Yeah, well, I'll say this about Obama. He's a good husband and a good father. I would not say the same for Donald Trump. But let me ask you this. Let me pull back and ask you this. I don't disagree with some of the things you said about the economy. Like I said, the reason why I'm not a Trump supporter, 95% of it, I think he's a scumbag. I'll just say it. I say it all the time. But you did mention North Korea. Now, I disagree with you on that. I don't think the president has accomplished anything. There's been all these missile tests going on. It seems like he bows down to Vladimir Putin and Kim Jong-un, who we all agree are two evil, murderous dictators. And I think if Obama did that, if Obama went over there and even had a discussion with Kim Jong-un, he would be attacked by the right constantly. I don't think Donald Trump has accomplished anything in regards to North Korea. And until something is accomplished, I just don't see Kim Jong-un. You could call him, an evil, murderous dictator, but he's not stupid. I don't think one day he's going to say, you know what, I like this orange man. Here are all my nukes. I just don't see that happening.
I don't disagree with you. However, I will say that my personal opinion would be with those two countries that have been, our relationship with them has been fairly contentious in the past. I think it's better, even if it's superficially, even if they're just kind of like, we can take advantage of this idiot, so let's just humor him. But I don't know. I feel like things seem like they're a little bit less contentious with these countries at the very least. And like a lot of people, the Russia thing, I just don't understand, because people are like, oh, Trump's in bed with the Russians and he's great. Like, okay, so if we have a good relationship with Russia, is that a bad thing?
I don't think it's, but I don't think I understand, but I don't think it's a good relationship when they're interfering in our elections, which clearly they did in 2016.
Yeah, Mr. X. Yeah. So I have a question for you. Do you know of any Trump supporters who are closet Trump supporters in Hollywood who actually, in public, go the other direction?
You mean like actually pretend to be liberal?
Exactly. They literally pander to be liberal.
Let me put it this way. I'm guilty of it, because there are a lot of liberal agendas that I don't mind and I agree with. And, socially, I actually consider myself to be fairly liberal. So when somebody asks me about my political leanings, I say I'm super pro-environment. I'm pro-gay marriage. I believe in a woman's choice to, make decisions regarding abortion. I just sort of lean toward the things that I do agree with on the left, rather than say, well, this whole like transgender non-binary thing is actual insanity and people in 100 years are going to say we were insane. But, I think that's what a lot of them do, is like they just try to find something on the left that doesn't make their skin crawl, and they just say, that I agree. I think we should save the dolphins, and that they kind of just leave it at that. And so, and I think you guys may think I'm joking about how serious it is. If you were to say in Hollywood, I'm a Trump supporter, if you wore a MAGA hat, to your castings, like people would just refuse to associate with you. It's incredibly divisive.
Yeah, listen, I don't agree with what's transpiring in Hollywood. I don't agree with some of the stuff you've gone through, but I will say this. I don't think the president is helping as far as dividing the country. I don't think he's bringing us together. That's just my opinion.
That's the media, man. Sorry, that's the media.
You think the president is bringing us together when he goes after John McCain and he goes after, a war hero? You think the president is bringing us together when he calls Mexicans rapists? And I suppose some of them are good people. You think the president is representing the country well when he's in a hospital?
I really like where this interview is going right now. This is perfect.
You're right, but I think both sides are very equally. I would say the fault is 100% equal, because I think that I think there's a fundamental misunderstanding of how to get along in this country.
I agree.
And to entrench yourself in any view, whether it's far right or far left, you're literally accomplishing nothing. Somebody like Michael Moore, he's not changing minds when he makes a documentary. He's just further entrenching the people who already feel that way and further disenfranchising the people who don't.
Are you bashing Roger and Me? How dare you?
Well, exactly.
Roger and Me? I love that movie.
Sure,
the one about Flint?
Too,
yeah.
That was terrible. That place was crazy.
I like that movie.
Exactly. But the point is that like it's all so misguided. And here's the craziest thing is that on social media, if I posted something pro-Trump, I would just get crushed and everybody would crush.
That's true.
In person, if I encounter a liberal person and I talk to them and they just say, who do you support? And I was honest with them and I said, I actually don't think Trump's a bad guy. and I have that conversation with them,
Yeah.
we both walk away thinking that the other person was a good person.
Right.
So that's the problem. It's the media. It's like the portrayal of all this,
The
division
message.
and just like,
Yeah.
that's how it is. But if you actually stand face to face with somebody that is even and there's differences. I mean, there is a certain level of liberalism that I can't abide, but there's also a certain level of crazy conservative Christians that I think are even more dangerous
Right.
than the liberals. So it's like, it's just a matter, like, I think 95% of the people in this country are just sensible. And they're pretty much like more toward the middle of their party, but the media and Hollywood and Trump, these various opposing sides, it serves them to create drama and division. And it's uninteresting if everybody agrees and everybody likes this one candidate and he's just going to crush everyone. Like, no, they thrive on controversy, and that's where I think the real fault lies.
Well, let me ask you this, because you're talking a lot about the media. I don't disagree with everything you're saying about the media, but I think we all know this, right? It's about ratings, right? CNN, MSNBC, Fox News, everyone, they're all about ratings. Donald Trump is helping them with ratings. Let's call it for what it is. But with that being said, again, I'm going to go back to what I said before. I don't think Trump helps himself when he calls the media the enemy of the people. I don't think the media is the enemy of the people. I watch CNN. I watch Fox News. I want to get both sides of the issues. Both networks are biased. We all know that there's bias in the media, and it's about ratings. I don't think when Donald Trump goes after the media on a regular basis, calls certain members of the media stupid, tells Jim Acosta, CNN should be ashamed.
I love it when he does.
Well, I mean,
I agree with
what if Barack Obama was up there? What if Barack Obama was up there and he went after somebody from Fox News and he did the same thing?
It would be my favorite thing that he's done as presidency. I don't care if you're right-wing media or left-wing media. To me, they're all part of the same group. They're all the ones who are just spreading chaos. And I honestly think that more than anyone else, I mean, I don't even necessarily want to touch on this topic, but like even with these school shootings and stuff, I have a very strong opinion that the way that they're covered is so horrifically wrong that it perpetuates it. And I just think that they dictate what people are angry about and how people feel. And I think that's part of the reason why they are. I've never seen the media so fanatically opposed to someone as they are to Trump. So like, I mean, I don't blame him when he lashes back out at them. Like, it's insanity. Like when I'm on the treadmill in the morning at the gym and CNN is on, I mean, it's literally like Trump marching with a Hitler mustache and devil horns. I mean, that is like 24/7. It's crazy.
Well, listen, I go ahead, JD. You had another question. Go ahead.
Well, I want to talk about the hypocrisy that kind of takes place. You have situations like Harvey Weinstein and what happened with him, and that happens a lot in Hollywood. Clearly, I'm sure you would know that more than most. But Donald Trump is one of the reasons why he is perceived as such an issue is because of his past womanizing, the grab her by the pee, et cetera, et cetera. Doesn't a lot of that take place in Hollywood with the same people that are accusing him of the things that they do themselves?
Well, not only that, I'm going to say something very controversial that I'm sure that people on the left that listen to your show will absolutely hate. Nothing made me grin more than watching Gwyneth Paltrow when the whole Harvey Weinstein thing was coming out and talk about how when she was young, he was inappropriate with her. I just wonder whether she would make a different decision with where she's at in her life and all the success that she's had and how many millions of dollars she has. I wonder if she would. And I'm sorry to say it, and there's obviously a limit, and Harvey was an absolute monster. But I also see a lot of, to be very sensitive about this, I see a lot of both sides kind of doing something that is not quite as... rape is wrong. Sexual.
Basically, what you're saying is that that sometimes women sleep their way up the ladder, and they do it on purpose.
I think it's incredibly common, and
I've certainly done that. I've slept my way up the ladder. Yeah.
Yeah, I wish I could. I said the other day, if there was a woman that wanted to fund my movies, say, okay, well, and obviously that's more of a male thing.
Kim Kardashian and Paris Hilton seem like extremely talented individuals. I'm sure it had nothing to do with sex. Yeah.
No, of course, Kim didn't become famous because of Ray J. I hope she sends him residual checks. That's all I can say, because he's been responsible for her career. And again, so I look at that and I go, if you talk to her, do you think she would take it back? Do you think she would rather say, you know what, I'm a strong, independent woman. I shouldn't have made that sex tape. I want to go back in time and erase it.
I don't think so.
Do you think so?
I don't think so. No, that's a fair point.
No.
Well, listen,
No.
I just want to say this, Mr. X. Since you're a Trump supporter, you're never coming on this show again. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
That sounds. Are you guys in Hollywood right now?
We're doing a remote from Warner Brothers.
Yeah, since you're a Caucasian white male, a Caucasian. Have I said that right? Yeah, we can't have you on anymore. Yeah. We'd rather have a guest that's less qualified. That's maybe a minority or a woman. I hope that's okay with you.
Yeah. I expect you to send me reparations for that statement. So, there you go.
It's coming your way. All right. Well, listen, Mr. X, Hollywood conservative, we appreciate you coming on. I do want to talk to you a little bit more next time you come on, and I hope you come on with us again soon about gun control, because I think it's a big issue.
I would love to talk about that, so I'm welcome to come on anytime, guys. Let me know.
Tell Ted Nugent I said hello, please.
I will.
All right. Have a good
one. Thanks a lot, Mr.
One.
X.
We appreciate it. There you go. Our Hollywood conservative, Mr. X, joining us on the show. Very interesting to hear his insight, what it is like to be a Trump supporter or even a conservative in Hollywood. I thought that was very, very, very interesting, and very unfortunate that, he goes into an interview trying to produce a movie, trying to do his job.
It's scary because if you're not on top already, you can't climb up the ladder.
Right.
You can't further your career without thinking a certain way. I mean, that in itself is fascist.
Yeah.
If that's true, Hollywood is fascist.
Well, there's a lot of people out there. Look, anyone out there that calls a Trump supporter a Nazi or a racist, I've never supported that kind of language, and I never will. Are there Nazis out there and racists that could be Trump supporters? Yeah, there's probably some, but there's always going to be, unfortunately, people like that in society. With that being said, it's both sad and interesting to hear his perspective on what he has to do with just trying to make a living in Hollywood, and I think it's wrong. We're going to take a quick break. Be back right after this. You're listening to the Vegas Take on the all-new 101.5 FM, 720 AM KDWN. Welcome back. It is the Vegas Take, Sharp and Shapiro. So glad you could join us on a Tuesday. Yeah, that was a really interesting conversation. We got a lot to get to in hour number 3. What are the 5 worst mistakes you could make at a Las Vegas buffet? We'll have that coming up. I love buffets myself. And like I said, I'm not on the front of Fitness Magazine anytime soon. So I do hit those buffets up. We'll get to that coming up in hour number 3. Also, what is swatting? Well, it's a crazy story about a guy who was playing video games, and then in the middle of playing those video games, the SWAT team showed up at his house. It is a wild and crazy story. Also, speaking of conservatives, speaking of people that are on the right, we remember this guy, right? He is a Hall of Fame pitcher. I remember his great years for the Boston Red Sox. Remember the bloody sock incident in the World Series? He makes appearances on Fox News. He was fired from ESPN for his right-wing conservative views. Well, guess what? Curt Schilling is now seriously considering running for Congress out of Arizona, and the President of the United States, Donald Trump, is giving him his full support. So we'll talk about that coming up in hour number 3, and we talk about slow play on the PGA Tour. Brooks Koepka has talked about it. Some of the best players in the world are complaining about how some of their playing partners are killing them on the golf course because they are so slow. There's a video that just came out of Bryson DeChambeau, the winner of right here in our backyard at the Shriners Hospital for Children's Open. So Bryson DeChambeau has taken a lot of flack. He literally took like 3 minutes to putt the other day, and there's a video of it, and it went viral, and all these PGA Tour players are clowning him. Well, Bryson DeChambeau has actually spoken up about that today, so we'll talk about that in hour number 3 as well. And if you're just listening to us, by the way, for the first time, thank you for joining us. This is a show, we've been doing this for the last year, 6 to 8 p.m., and we just moved time slots 9 a.m. to noon. Steve Sanchez has replaced us at the 6 to 8 p.m. hour. So we've expanded the show another hour, and we're really enjoying this new time slot. It's a lot of fun. Couldn't ask really for a better time slot for talk radio. We're very happy about that. And coming up again, as I said, in hour number 3, we'll also take your phone calls on the GCI hotline, which is 257-5396. Again, that number to call if you do want to be at the part of the program, 702-257-5396. We'll take a break. We'll be back right after this. You're listening to the Vegas Take, 101.5 FM, 720 AM KDWN.